Hey everybody, welcome to BODS Mayhem Hour. I'm your host, John the Bod, aka the Bod Father, and as always, bring you guys awesome interviews. And today it is an honor and privilege to have Sam Kiszka. He's the bassist and keyboardist of Greta Van Fleet, and this band is pretty much tearing it up right now. If you've not got to hear any of their new stuff, you need to pick up their debut EP called Black Smoke Rising. It was released on April 21st of this year, so great freaking music from these guys. Sam, how's it going?
It's going great, John. How about yourself?
Doing awesome. Glad to have you on the show, and I'm really liking your guys' music. I like that old school 60s, 70s-ish sound that you guys are bringing back. I think it's pretty badass, man.
It's rock and roll, man. I think people are ready for roots rock again. I think that it's coming back, John.
I think so too. I think it's time to get the wheel spinning again and go back a little bit and bring it back, you know?
Yeah, I agree.
So you guys grew up in Frankmouth, Michigan, just outside of Detroit, with your twin brothers, Josh and Jake. How cool is it to play in this band with your brothers, and how was their reaction to you wanting to join the band, you being the youngest one?
Well, I think, the whole thing, even still now as we're talking, I think every step in this process has been very natural, very organic. It's like, I guess I could say that it all started when Jake started bringing home a buddy from jazz band. He was like the new kid in school, and Jake found out he played drums. So they would come back every day and jam in the garage, just drums and guitar, like Black Keys Magic Potion style stuff. And then sometimes Josh would come out and sing. And it was only a few months before I, started picking up bass from the harassment of my mother, calling me. She said I looked like a bass player. So, that was enough for me. After she said it about 1,000 times, I thought, I may as well try it out, right? My dad had a old bass laying around, and that's kind of where it all started. I started learning some riffs, and I started playing with the guys, and it all evolved from there. Then we started playing grad parties because we got invited, and then we started getting noticed and started doing the local bar scene, club scene, and then, all of a sudden we're, playing festivals and stuff, and it's been really great. And, people have really been grabbing onto the music. I think rock and roll is very easy to understand. I think it's very relatable,
Sam, what's impressed you the most about making this debut EP, Smoke Rising? What's caught your eye about, if anything, man?
Well, actually, this morning, I guess this is a good example of what impresses me about the EP, is that in Canada this morning, we just broke the record for longest #1 on the charts for a debut single.
That's
so
awesome.
Highway Tune's been on the #1 chart in Canada for 8 weeks, and I think it's a sign. I think people are ready for it, like I was saying, and I think it's something that people can very easily grab onto. Everybody can groove to rock and roll. So I think the way we made the EP was our very rock and roll songs, and I think it was a great introduction into the world of music for us. I think it was the first thing out of the gate, and I think it was a good choice.
Congratulations on that, man, because nowadays, honestly, it's so hard for bands to stay in the top #1 for 2 weeks, let alone 8 weeks.
Yeah, I know. It's an amazing thing. Really, really is.
How was working with producers Al Sutton and Marlon Young on this EP, man? How was that experience for you guys?
Well, I think, they had a big part in it, because when we first got in the studio, I was a freshman, and so was Daniel, and then my brothers were seniors in high school. So, we did studio experiences before. We had our experiences, but it was nothing as in-depth as Al had us go. He taught us what making a good record really meant. I think that we really learned the art of recording music from Al. So I guess from that perspective, it's a really important piece, and a producer is a really important piece. It's that extra set of ears, that extra opinion that really counts. I don't think producers get nearly enough credit. Like, when you think about what George Martin had with, like, his part with the Beatles, it's monstrous. He was literally another band member. He had just as much say as the other guys, and so producers are very important, and I think as far as making a good record goes, they're Marlon Young and Al Sutton were they're the right guys. If you're gonna make rock and roll anywhere in the United States, I think Rust Belt is the place to do it.
So did they push you guys really hard being a young band and just step in when they needed to, or let's talk about that a little bit.
Oh yeah, they pushed us, and I'm very thankful that they did. That's how our dad always worked. It was a tough love thing. It's like, but yeah, they definitely pushed us, and I think that it worked out really well. And I think that's the only way that it could have been done. Instead of babying us.
Now, there's a few songs on this EP, of course. Are there any songs on the debut EP, Sam, that stand out more to you, possibly?
On the debut, I would say actually the way that the EP is set up is interesting because, people wouldn't know this, but Highway Tune is the first song that we ever wrote as a band, which was probably about 5 years ago now. And then Black Smoke Rising, the title track, was actually written in the studio when we were working on the other songs, when we were trying to figure out this whole EP thing. And it actually transformed into the title track. So I think that's an interesting thing about it, and I think it shows our growth and development from Highway Tune to Black Smoke. So it just adds that depth of perspective.
Now, I know you mentioned growth musically, but do you see this as growth as more of a band together, or do you see it more as a personal growth for each of you guys?
Well, I think that it really is. It's both, and I think that the growth as a band is a direct result of growing as musicians and artists in our own rights. Like, I always think about when ZZ Top broke up and they went off and they all did their own thing for a while, and then they came back together and it was like a refreshed sound. So I think that's what's happening to us, but we're sticking together, and I think it's growing, and that's what happens. It just develops into something new very slowly. And I'm excited for the next release because I'm excited to show people, the other sides of Greta Van Fleet that we've never shown, So that's going to be cool.
How much do you have written on anything new so far, possibly?
Well, when we were learning the ways of the studio, we did a lot of demoing, we did a lot of rough tracks, we did a whole lot of everything. We even have a lot of completed master takes. And so, because we were in the studio for probably about 2 years before we started, seriously, getting an EP out. And so in that time, we built up a lot of material because we had a lot of time to write before that. The writing has slowed down now that we've been on the road, but I think writing a song is something that happens very naturally. So I'm not worried about not writing right now because we're kind of juggling studio time and we're juggling playing live shows.
And I've seen this a couple of times. I think it's not fair, but do you think it's fair that people compare your sound to Zeppelin? I mean, that's an awesome compliment, man.
You know what? I think that the way people mean people mean it as a compliment when they say it. I appreciate that notion because Led Zeppelin is probably the best rock band that's ever been.
Mm-hmm.
And personally, for me, I know that we have a lot more depth as a band. I know that all the people are exposed to is the EP, which is very rock. It's very rock oriented. So if they're going to compare us to someone, I'm thankful that it's Led Zeppelin. That's pretty awesome.
You're damn right. That's a huge compliment.
Yeah.
Yeah, I see people talking about it, and I'm like, this, hey, look, at least these kids found their groove. If they want to sound like that, then let them, come up with something better than
yeah, exactly. True. And that's the sound that, that's the sound that we make when we get together. Mm-hmm. I don't think we ever sat down and said, all right, now what style of music do we want to play? It was just, that's just what happened,
What do you hope the fans take away from this debut EP or any Greta Van Fleet's music in general once they start to listen to it, Sam?
I want to make people feel something. I want to make people think. I want to invoke thought. And it goes back to when I was probably about 10 or 11 years old. Me and Jake listened to the Essential Bob Dylan CDs for just days and days on end. And the way that Bob Dylan made me feel, you know, with his music, I wanted to be able to do that to other people. And that's really the reason, that was my inspiration for getting into music. So I think really, I want to make the world a better place. I think we all want to make people happier. We want to inspire people. You know, we want to make people, you know, put that extra little ounce of thought into things. You know, it's art.
Here's the $1,000,000 question. For the folks that have not got to see Greta Van Fleet live yet, what can they expect at a show from you guys?
Well, I would go far enough to say they could expect good music. And for those who have only listened to the EP only makes about 15 minutes up of our hour 15 set. So there's a lot of new material that you would be seeing. And actually, we're in Portland, Oregon tonight. We're sitting here in the bus in the venue parking lot. Beautiful day, beautiful clear blue skies. But I think overall, you can really you can expect a lot of energy, and you can expect also a keyboard. And it's kind of a pseudo acoustic set that we do with flower power and another and then an acoustic one that's called You're the One. So there's a lot of extra material, and there's a lot of energy, and there's a lot of crowd interaction. And I think these concerts are really an opportunity for us to make, you know, people feel happy. I think, and entertain people, and, you know, we can all get together in the same room and have a good time.
We're living in the digital era of recording albums and social media, Sam. Do you guys like this, man? Because I know people can get their music out quicker, plus social media can blow up bands in a heartbeat. Do you guys like this?
Well, I mean, it's definitely worked in our advantage. And I think that, you know, I think it's given us a lot of opportunities that, you know, bands 10, even 15 years ago wouldn't have the opportunity to have. And it's another mode of, you know, output. It's another way of, you know, people figuring out that Greta Van Fleet exists. But as much, I will say I'm not a fan of social media, just in the respect of, you know, I'd rather be playing my guitar. I'd rather be playing my keyboard. You know, it's like, it's a pain in the ass, but I think that it's really worked in our advantage. And, you know, I would probably see it as selfish if I didn't do any of the social media stuff. If we didn't do any of the social media stuff, you know, sharing the experience a little bit of being on the road and just kind of showing fans what's going on. I think it's a great tool.
So here's another $1,000,000 question for you. I know you're the bassist and you play keyboards, but would you rather rip into a Cliff Burton bass solo, or would you rather rip into a keyboard solo? What would you prefer, man?
Oh, man. It's tough, you know. It depends on the song, but, you know, if I were in a band where I didn't have to play bass while I played keys, I would, because, you know, when I'm playing keys on stage, I have a pedal unit that I play bass on. So, you know, it makes it a lot more pain in the ass to solo, but I do get a bass solo and a keyboard solo in the show. But
nice.
I would honestly have to say I would rather rip like a Billy Preston blues solo on the organ than anything else. I think that's the most satisfying thing in the entire world, you know, an organ solo. Nothing makes my heart smile more than that.
Support-wise, man, is there a country or a region that stands out more or surprises you that you guys get support from the area right now?
You know what? I never cease to be amazed at, you know, because I don't think that there's one market that's way bigger than another. I think that there's the big cities stand out a little bit more. They make up just a little bit more of a percentage than other places, which is, it's amazing. It's so spread out in the United States, you know, because LA is our biggest market by, you know, like just a little tiny bit, and then, you know, it's everywhere. You know, it's Baltimore, it's New York, it's Michigan. You know, it's everywhere, and I think that's an amazing thing. I think that it's great how it's all evenly spread out.
In your own opinion, what does Greta Van Fleet bring to the table for music that's not out there right now? To me, you guys are like a fresh breath of air for music, because I hear so much of the same.
That's another $1 million question right there. That's $3 million.
Oh man, I owe you a lot of money.
John, show me the money, John.
Oh,
not answering any more questions. But as far as, you know, bringing something new and refreshing, I think that I think that there's been bands in the past few years that have paved the way for what we're doing, and, great rock bands. There's great bands out there, and, you just have to find them. And unfortunately, with the way music works, for some reason, the bullshit gets pushed to the very front. It gets pushed to what they call popular. Mm-hmm. But for the good stuff, you really have to dig. And, but as far as Greta Van Fleet goes, I think that I would say that it's a resurgence of, youthful energy. I think we're making everybody feel young. I see 70-year-old dudes, out there just jamming out like they're 18. And
True.
I think that, I think it's an opportunity to bring everybody together, because at our shows, the age difference can be as dramatic as 8 years old to 80. We see lots of little children. We see every age there is. So I think that is an interesting perspective to what we're doing. It's bringing everybody together, and that's what music's all about. It's about bringing people together. It's about making them feel good. It's about taking that energy that they see at the concert, that they listen to the EP, and they take it out in the world, and they use that positive energy however they want. That's my absolute favorite part about this job. Seeing the joy in a 10-year-old's eyes. When we give them a bass drum head or something like that. It's really great.
Now, I know you mentioned that your mom kept telling you, hey, you should pick up a bass, you should play music. But what was that spark for you that said, okay, yeah, that's what I want to do right there?
Well, I think it was something that kept waning on my consciousness was, they're playing music outside, and it was really cool. And, I always listened to music very obsessively, and I still do. I think that the only thing I'm more obsessive about than playing music is listening to it. So I guess when, I was putting all the pieces together now, my brother's playing music out here, and the way that, that Bob Dylan's music affected me. And then I think the final piece of the puzzle was my mom saying, you look like a bass player, because I'm long and lanky, that kind of thing. And there was a bass laying around, so I think it was probably just a sign in the universe. So I picked it up, and I started learning on Motown music, because that's what I was listening to most. And that's still my favorite bass to listen to, my favorite bass to play, And I think it's influenced my style monstrously.
I just have to say, as a new fan of your guys' music, thank you all for what you guys are doing right now, man.
Oh, thank you for listening, man. Thank you for being a supporter.
How can folks stay in touch with you guys, buy some merchandise, tour dates? How can they do that, Sam?
Stay in touch? Well, I guess the website, any social media, and, it's all out there. So just pay attention, and we'll keep you on the update.
Before I let you go, good sir, would you care to do a promo for the show?
Yeah, sure. Hey there, this is Sam Kiszka from Greta Van Fleet. You're listening to BODS Mayhem Hour.
Everybody stick around. We got some great music coming up, and you only hear these interviews right here on BODS Mayhem Hour and Uber City Radio. Thank you so much, Sam.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.